Awesome. Thank you all for joining us for this dev meetup. We've already gone ahead and introduced yourself, so we're going to move on to the next slide, which is the agenda. All right, so on our list today, we have AI Agent Studio, and that will be presented by Jason Trent. And we also have AI Governance, which will be presented by Rinku. And then we're going to open up the floor to some questions. And the way that you ask these questions is you go to the chat and, oh no, wait, there's a Q&A option here. Wow. All right. So just drop your questions in the chat and we'll pick them up from there.
Yeah, we can. Folks, can you confirm? Yeah, I think the Q&A option is open, so
Okay,
we
great.
can type it there.
I was beginning to think that it was wasn't open, but thank you for confirming that. Go ahead and drop your questions in the Q&A section. And if you have any other questions or other things to say, drop that in the chat. All right, next slide. Pathfinder giveaway. Exciting. Thank you for joining us today. And because you've joined us today, we're going to be giving away 3 swag packs to 3 lucky winners. And the swag packs are, I mean, you're only eligible for the swag packs if you stay till the very end of this meetup. So make sure to not go anywhere. Just be in this meeting and you can avail one of these swag packs. And if you want to look at the full details, you can look at the rules by scanning this QR code or going to this link. All right. Few housekeeping rules. This meeting is going to be recorded and this will be shared with everyone who has signed up for this event. Excuse me. All attendee lines will be muted. And if you have any questions, you can submit them in the Q&A panel that we referred to earlier. And if you have any issues with your audio or video, please feel free to use the chat option to make a note of that. Or let us to notify us about that. Okay, go ahead. Next slide. Oh, I hand this over to Arjun because he's going to tell us about the exciting APA training camp. Go ahead, Arjun.
Okay, thank you, Shreya. So today in our meetup, Jason and Rinku are going to show us how does this agentic process automation work. They're going to show you some cool demos. But after this, if you're looking for like in-depth training about how you can build these AI agents and build this agentic process automation, we have something exciting coming up. I know we already published this on our social channels. Can you let us know how many of you have already registered for this? Okay, this is how the training camp looks like. It's going to be like on-demand courses for 4 weeks, and it'll also include like a hands-on project build where you can learn all the topics which we're going to cover and then use it to build a hands-on project. It's just going to take like a maximum of 2 hours per week. So the commitment level is really low, but the content quality is very high. We will also have weekly office hours. That means like live calls where you can join us and ask any questions, and the more details about like we have multiple office calls as well, like based on different time zones. So do check out our community page, which Shreya will share it with all of you if you have not yet registered. And so these weekly office hours will happen on Wednesdays, and we'll also have live coaching sessions on Thursdays. We have 2 tracks for this: automation leader track and the developer track. So the leader track will enable you to run an AI program in your organization. And the developer track will help you build necessary skills to build your complex automation solution. So whether you are developer or a automation leader, whether irrespective of whether you are like a technical person or a managerial person, we have something specific for you, which will enable you to have these kind of programs in your organization. And if you're interested to do both of them and can spare like 4 hours a week, you're more than welcome to do both of these tracks. And then at the end of the 4th week, and you complete all the assessments as a requisite for this, you'll be awarded a certificate of completion as well. And we also have like different themes if you're participating as part of groups. So there'll be like group activities which you can perform for every week. That way, you're just not participating as an individual, but you can team along, whether it's with your own organization or you team along with other folks as well. Look at these different themes we have decided. I mean, we have designed starting from the basics of what does API mean, and then we get you to complex topics in every week, and this will help you get ready for building such programs for your own organization. And this is how the schedule looks like. April 7th, that's starting on Monday, we will send you the week one game plan, like which are the specific videos which you have to watch for that week. And on Wednesdays, you can join the office hours and join our experts, ask any questions you have. And on Thursdays, we will also have LinkedIn live coaching sessions, as I mentioned earlier. And also make sure you cover the videos for that week. That way you're not overloaded for the upcoming weeks. So, and the game plan remains the same for the rest of the 3 weeks as well. So all the 4 weeks, very similar plan. You will receive the content to be watched on Mondays, office hours on Wednesdays, and also LinkedIn live coaching on Thursdays. So if you can do this, and by the end of fourth week, just complete the assessment, and then you should be eligible to get the certificate of completion. Okay, just a safe harbor before we proceed. Most of the features are already live, but there are some features which are forward-looking. So if you're making any purchase decisions, do read all the documents carefully before you sign up. Whatever we are showing today is not a commitment or a promise or a legal obligation, because some of them are future forward-looking and the timelines may vary. Now, I would like to hand it over to Jason so that he can start with AI Agent Studio and how it works and how you can build AI agents for enterprises.
Awesome.
If the
Thanks very much.
yeah, if there are any questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A section. We'll take it from there. Thank you.
Yep, exactly. And I think as we transition over a couple things, it looks like we've got a lot of folks registered for the session, which is really, really awesome. Arjun or Prey, share, if you could stop sharing, that way I can share. Perfect. Thank you very much. And then if we can go and launch that first poll, we've got a couple of polls lined up for the team today. So the first one is on what stage are you at currently in your AI journey? And there's a couple different options. You're interested but haven't started exploring yet. You're independently exploring. You represent a company that is exploring but it hasn't deployed yet. You or your company have implemented your first use case, or you or your company have hit the ground running and implemented several use cases. So we'll give another maybe 30 seconds for the team to be able to go and finish their voting. And then we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and wrap that poll up and let's see what the results look like. Awesome. Okay, so this is actually what we see with a lot of these particular sessions is that a lot of the scoring, about half the scoring or more, is kind of in that first third where folks are interested. They've heard a lot about AI agents and agentic process automation. Maybe they've started some small explorations. You've done some things on the side, but you haven't actually taken that into production. And so I think it's actually a really great time for those of you that are on the call that have fallen into one of those first three buckets, because we're going to spend the rest of our time today talking about how you can utilize AI Agent Studio as a tool to not only facilitate some of that exploration, but also in some of the things that Rinku is going to talk to you about in the second half today around guardrails and governance, how you can feel comfortable and your company can feel comfortable taking this actually into production. Now, for those of you that have focused on getting in early and starting to build some stuff, we're really excited about that. Hopefully, there's still a lot of great content for you as well. So let's go ahead and jump off. And for those of you that haven't spent a lot of time here, I do want to just kind of reiterate the way that we think about the evolution of generative AI over the last several years, and specifically this new capability around agentic process automation. We actually see this as sort of the third wave for automation. Everyone knows this, and we're a leader and a pioneer in the world around RPA and being able to go and automate those highly repetitive, task-focused types of automations. We transitioned kind of in the second wave where we started focusing around actually tackling more long-running business processes. And that's obviously where we brought in capabilities like intelligent document processing with our document automation product, as well as understanding businesses' processes themselves with our process discovery tool. Now with generative AI, though, we really feel like organizations are able to go and capture really up to 60, 70, 80 or more % of the total business process and actually go and automate that. And the way that they do that is actually through this inclusion of agents. Now, if you haven't spent a lot of time really learning about what agents are, I think there's a really simple way to kind of think about it. Historically, the things that have been able to be accomplished by basic tasks or even RPA, typically very task focused, very back office focused. And what we see from a pattern perspective is you have to know all the ways that the process is going to go. It's very what's considered deterministic. A lot of times we also see challenges with this approach, though, because most of our automations, or a good portion of our automations at least, are built around a UI. And when that UI changes, oftentimes we see that it can break and it impacts the actual ability for that process to run. And humans are brought in really to fix problems, but not necessarily to go and give directions. Now, with our agentic process automation investments that we've made over, again, the last 2 years, what we're seeing is much larger efficiency gains. Instead of focusing just on back office type of tasks, we actually now have the ability to go and tackle more mid and even front office types of solutions. Those are going to be ones that touch directly your customers, your suppliers, external parties as well, in addition to the standard back office facilities that we always have been able to go and cover. There's a big mind shift, though, in the way that these applications and these APA solutions are built, because it's starting to go away from deterministic, fully deterministic, to what we're kind of calling now semi-deterministic, where you've got an element of learning that's available now. And that learning can come in multiple different forms, either through enriching the way that a generative AI model understands your business by providing information, all the way to actually, feeding in the results of prior executions, so it can change the accuracy and improve the accuracy and the outcomes in the future. So how does this actually manifest itself within our platform? We've been investing in generative AI now for about 3 years, and we've actually seen it touch multiple different parts of the platform. I think kind of the key thing that I want you to really walk away from this slide, though, is this top section where it talks about solutions. We announced our commitment to building and producing and sharing automation AI focused solutions at Imagine, our huge customer event last year, and we're continuing to do that. And I'll talk a little bit more about solution capabilities here towards the end of my section, right after my demo. But know that our agentic system is really built on top of the foundations of our automation capabilities that you all know and love. And so when we talk about APA, it's rooted deeply in the skills and the capabilities and the experiences that you've already gained by building on top of the A360 platform. So let's break down exactly what an agent looks like really quickly. And this is a pretty standard order fulfillment type of solution. Historically, this is something that would have taken multiple hours to go and achieve. And we actually worked with a customer to go and implement this same exact pattern. And by replacing humans in the areas where they have the brains with the circles, those are now agents. And what we're seeing is, again, historically with RPA, we were able to go and tackle 40 to 60% of the total business process. That's because there are things that we know about in the process that we can easily go and automate. But the things that were hard were always the things where humans had to come in. They had to look at and grab and collect data from multiple different locations. They had to analyze that data and then make some kind of informed decision. This is where generative AI models, LLMs, and agents are fantastic at. This is exactly the type of workloads that they were built for. And this is actually how we believe you're going to be able to uncover more automation opportunities in the business processes you're looking to build. So what does an agent really mean? For us, it's the combination of an LLM, and that's where you're going to go and write and tune your prompt in something called an AI skill. And then it's going to have access to go and take action across your platform. And it's going to be enriched by things like enterprise knowledge that is available to you through multiple different type of RAG endpoints. It's going to be give you the ability to go and utilize models from all kinds of different places. It's going to have all of the governance around that. And we'll talk more about things like real-time monitoring and traceability and observability, and even things like data masking as we send that over to models here in the second top portion of our time here today. Now, before we jump into the demo, I do want to call out one thing. You're all hearing agents from every place. And we think there's actually a couple different types of agents that exist within this larger enterprise software ecosystem. First of all, are going to be what we refer to as personal agents. These are going to be agents that really are focused on personal productivity. So think about, I want to go and search for content maybe that exists in a couple different locations, or I want to go and maybe take an Excel file and generate a PowerPoint deck on top of that. That's not going to drive enterprise-wide digital transformation, but it is going to improve the productivity of your individual knowledge workers. The second kind are these app-specific types of agents. So think of large systems of record like Salesforce, SAP, ServiceNow, Oracle, others. They all have grown into providing agentic capabilities that are great to work within their own system. But most folks, their business processes, they actually span 5 or more different systems of record. And so those aren't really going to work well in a different system. They're not going to help you go and really achieve a total business process. Really, what we believe are the highest value to customers and the things that you guys should be focusing on building are our AI process agents. They span multiple different systems of record. They allow you to integrate into all kinds of different backend systems through a flexible API integration layer, and all of the governance is stored in a single location. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and really quickly stop sharing. I'm going to switch over and we're going to jump into exactly how do we go and build all the things that we've talked about on top of the A360 platform. So let me share my screen real quick. And we're actually going to start here within Salesforce. So today's demonstration is it's an auto loan approval process. And this traditionally, for this particular instance, starts within a system of record like Salesforce. Now, this is something we've actually pulled directly from a customer use case. It's a commercial bank here in the United States, and they're working with a very large electric car manufacturer, and they're at risk of losing access to building and providing these auto loans because the amount of time it took was so long. Pardon me. So we're going to start here. We're actually going to start as a member of the sales team at the dealership. They're working with a customer that wants to go and buy a car, and they need to start the auto loan process here. Now, this is a process that requires you to go and collect some information up front, multiple different pieces of financial information. You then need to go and maybe extract some content from that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a member of the bank that is an auto loan approver, and they need to review all of this information, and they need to make a decision if we should extend a loan to this particular borrower, and if so, what are the details of that loan? Again, historically, this is a process that took lots of different steps. It involved pulling information from many different systems, analyzing information, and then generating some kind of recommendation. We think we can actually solve all of that now with the advent of agents. So I'm going to start here. Notice that I'm in Salesforce and I've got our automation copilot. This is really the visualization layer for our agent technology. It allows you to go and service agents into really any experience. This happens to be serviced in Salesforce. It's easily rehosted in Teams and Slack, really in any types of digital experience that you have. And I'm going to say, I need to process an auto loan. Now, what's amazing about this experience, that's context of who I am, and it knows exactly what it is that I have access to within the total automation estate, and it can understand the context of my particular question. So it's actually going to go and look and see, what types of automations have we published that would fit an auto loan. And you can see we've got our auto loan pre-approval. And so I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. And that's actually going to go and kick off the process. And the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to come back to me. And it's going to ask me for some information. I need to provide some information for the borrower that proves that they're able to go and afford the car. And here in the United States, that's called a W-2. So while I upload this information, the details about a W-2 are effectively that the information is pretty standardized. It's things like my annual wage, my tax withholdings, that type of thing. But the format of that is not always consistent. And this is really one of the first places where we can take advantage of our document automation product that can dynamically understand various different types of pieces of information, regardless on the format. It actually utilizes generative AI to go and then extract key pieces of that and then expose that as part of information that we'll use whenever we want to go and generate this particular auto loan request. So you can see we've already kicked off this process. Now this process is going to run for us in the background. It's going to actually call multiple different agents. And while that's running, I want to take you through how we actually built a lot of this, because I think those are the things that are going to be super important to our customers and to you guys. So this is our process composer. This is a part of the platform that we're heavily investing in, and this is actually going to see a brand new look and feel here in upcoming months. So stay tuned for more details about that. But you can see we've done our document extraction. You can see that we've actually gone out and we've called into a couple of different agents here. So let's look and see how we actually go and build and configure agents. As I mentioned earlier, agents are a combination of a couple different key components. So if I jump into our canvas here, pardon me one second, you'll notice that I've added within our automation, the first step is to go call this AI skill. Now imagine as an application developer or automation developer, or maybe even a citizen developer, I may not know what a model is, what a prompt is, I don't know a lot, but what I do know is that an AI skill has been created within my organization and it's been shared with me. And if I jump into the details here, I can see all the context of this prompt, but I didn't have to write any of that. All I have to do is pass in things like the annual income amount, the loan amount, and then the AI skill is going to go and get information back, in this case from a model, and it'll make a recommendation around the type of loan that we want to provide. So this is showing the power of combining an AI skill, which is a key portion of the AI Agent Studio offering, along with an agent to go and then utilize that in a process. Now, how do we go and build our AI skills? There's a couple different ways, and I want to walk you through that really quickly. First off is we've got to start with our models. Now, I mentioned earlier that a lot of times when customers struggle going wide with generative AI, it's because they didn't understand or trust or know how models are being used across their organization. There wasn't a support system for them in place. Model Connections looks to go and solve that for you. It allows you to connect to pretty much any model. We have pre-built connectors for all the different hyperscalers. We allow you to go and connect to public models that are available in open source systems like Hugging Face and others. If you're working with a customer that's being deployed on-prem or in private cloud, we can support models that live both there as well. If your company builds their own models and you want to utilize that in AI skills, you have the flexibility to do that as well. You can see in this example, I've got models connected from pretty much everywhere. Various different types. Some are standard, some are what are called grounded, and grounded just basically means that we've included a retrieval augmented generation or RAG data source, and now you can go and write your AI skills against that. New for the most recent release is now including the ability to add in RAG on the Azure platform as well, which really rounds off our offering. We have a native RAG offering called Enterprise Knowledge. We also support now Azure, GCP, and AWS hyperscalers because they all also have all their own RAG offerings. Now, once you've got this model connection built, you need to go and use that in a skill. There's a couple different ways to do that. The first is you can take advantage of our out-of-the-box skills. So we ship about 20 plus different AI skills that are available as templates. These are stored within the bot store and then serviced up, as you can see here, within your control room. You can easily go and take a look at those or dive into one of those and start using that. You can also go and build one from scratch if you want to. This is an example of our auto loan skill. So this is actually a skill that we built that sits within this process. And the point of this skill is to go and take advantage of a model connection. And you can see here, I have access to all those model connections that are available in my environment. I can go and write a couple different types of prompts here. I've got a system prompt as well as a user prompt. And in this user prompt, you can see I'm actually telling it to go and use a specific document, then to go and format the outcome of your decision in a particular way in this JSON format. And the reason we chose JSON here was because it allows us to easily pass this information from agent to agent across the process. And then you'll notice at the bottom, all I've had to do is just go and pull in this prompt input. So these prompt inputs that you see here on the right, we've got some values here. These are really just for testing. But obviously, when you're utilizing this in an automation, in an agent, and in a process, It's all completely dynamic. These are the same values that we passed in from the process to the agent and now into this particular AI skill. And when I ran this, what we saw here was essentially an outcome. This is the model looking at the information that was provided. It's gone against information that's been also uploaded into our native RAG offering, Enterprise Knowledge, and this is grounding the model. So the model didn't know anything about what our loan rate was, our history of making loans available, how we score risk, all these different details that are important for a loan. It didn't know any of that. We've grounded that in information, and we can continue to update that knowledge base. So over time, it can continue to learn and grow in the way that approaches these problems. And then it can go and generate this response for us. Now, this response will be taken and then it'll be provided over to the loan underwriter, who can then you say, yes, I want to go and pick this particular loan package. I want to offer this up to the customer. And then obviously the customer can go and choose which loan they want to go and do. So in a really short amount of time, just as a quick recap, I've shown you how we can go and surface up AI agents within processes, surface those into chat experiences like we have for Automation Copilot and any kind of user experience. We can go and build our AI agents connected and grounded by enterprise models that you have access to, either you've built yourself or you've taken from hyperscalers. We can then go and build AI skills. We've got a great selection of out-of-the-box AI skills to get started with immediately, or if you want to go and build your own, you're welcome to do that. And then you can go and evaluate this AI skill and really tune the prompt. Make sure you get it just right before you publish and share that and make that available across the organization. Now with that, that's going to wrap up my demo. I'm going to be transitioning over to Rinku, who's going to take you through some of the core capabilities in our AI governance offering, as well as talk about some of the new things that are coming in part of that platform. Rinku, can I go ahead and stop my sharing and hand it over to you? And we're going to go ahead and pop up another quiz here as we do this transition. So our second quiz of the day, or second poll of the day, rather, it's not a quiz, you're not going to get graded. What are the most popular types of models you're connecting to within your organization? Are these going to be models that are provided by hyperscalers that are hosted in public cloud? Are these models that are provided by the same hyperscalers, but maybe hosted in a private cloud? Are they open source models hosted on Hugging Face and other platforms? Or are you using private models that your company has built and host internally? We'll leave that up for maybe another 30 seconds. And as we're wrapping up this quiz, or this poll, I keep calling it a quiz, I'll just touch a little bit on this last slide, which is focused on the different types of solutions. And so I mentioned this at the very beginning. We are committed to building solutions that are made available to our customers and via our partners. These are available either in our bot store. Some are available from hyperscaler marketplaces like AWS and others, and some are available directly from our partners. But these are pre-built solutions that are focused either horizontally across the organization or maybe even vertically as well. And the goal here is that there are no blank canvases. You get started with a solution right away. Obviously, everything you take here can be customized for your own environment, for your own business process, for your own needs, and allows you to really get going with agents quickly. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up that poll, and let's see what our results look like as we transition over to Rinku. Rinku? Awesome, and it looks like majority of you are focused on hyperscaler-based models, either public models or private models, with a few focusing on open source models and a little bit also focusing on private models deployed on-prem, which is super interesting. Thank you guys very, very much for your time today. Rinku, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jason. Wow, that was an interesting lineup of all the capabilities we have as you transition and embrace towards building interesting agents out there and realizing the power of the agentic automation. The very important part as we embrace this, it's important to understand we build our agents to be trustworthy, safe, and secure. And this is where AI governance comes along, right? A very interesting topic and something that I really and strongly believe in, as well as we as a company have invested heavily in ensuring that our customers are enabled and empowered as they build agents. The future of automation is agentic, and the next wave of automation, which we refer here as our 3.0 wave, where AI-powered automation agents move beyond simple task executions to a decision-making, adaptation, and collaboration. Unlike traditional automations, agentic systems can self-learn, reason, and dynamically respond to changing environments, making them ideal for intelligent workflows. So AI agents essentially is shaping the future of automation. And this shift brings immense potential, but also significant risks, making responsible governance essential. Without a well-defined AI governance framework, organizations really risk losing control, accountability, and compliance. So the key is to strike a balance, empowering AI agents while ensuring they operate within the ethical, transparent, and secure boundaries. By embedding governance, transparency, and security first principles, every organization can confidently scale with AI agents while minimizing the risks and ensuring responsible AI adoption. Essentially, AI governance is the cornerstone for responsible AI to help businesses accelerate and realize the business outcomes with AI. With every innovation comes complexity of consistent operating model, multiple applications, multiple AI services from the hyperscalers. Adopting a shift left strategy here as well for AI agent ensures that ethical, security, and compliance considerations are embedded end to end. This is a very proactive approach which will help mitigate and identify and mitigate risk very early on. This enhances the transparency as well as ensures responsible AI as you build these autonomous agents. So you start by a proactive approach of assessing and developing agents using safe and performant models. Jason demonstrated how you can do that by starting with model connections. Secure model connections is ensuring that you're only using safe and approved models for building automations with AI. Further on, as you build AI skills, constant testing and assessing and ensuring they're optimized for performance is a key to ensuring that you have made all the correct choices in your development phase as well, right? Once you have developed and deployed this automation, it's very important to ensure these agents are performing within the guardrails that are defined by your company policy. So apply guardrails to safeguard sensitive information, protect against toxic content, ensure these policies are enforced at runtime to block any unintended outcomes, any data leak that could happen to sensitive data. And finally, ongoing monitoring and auditing helps track this performance, help ensure that the models are indeed providing the accurate responses, the models that were intended to be performant, they are continuing to perform as designed. So these are some very key essential pillars as you build an end-to-end governance framework, which is embedded deep into your automation estate. We have continued to invest in our platform, and we have provided a bunch of platform capabilities that will help you in this journey. As you embrace and as you adopt AI, build with AI agents, our goal is to simplify risk management and help you govern the usage through deep analysis in every step of the way. In our previous releases, we have introduced an ability to govern the usage of LLM models. Model connections, our policy through code analysis are the key to ensuring only performant and approved models are used within automations. Real-time audit and monitoring essentially helps you monitor every interaction with the models. This is key to ensuring that the models are consistently providing accurate responses, as well as ensuring what data is being sent to the LLMs and how are those LLMs responding to those prompts. And finally, a very interesting feature that's up in our pipeline in the next release is the safety guardrails. This is essentially, this is a very essential component to safeguard all your automations, to safeguard your sensitive data against data exposure and data leakage. I'll talk a lot more about this feature in the next few slides. The AI guardrail essentially is designed to ensure compliance, privacy, and security while safeguarding against any unintended consequences. We have taken a privacy-first approach here. We have ensured that all known sensitive entities, such as personal health information, protected health information, personally identifiable information, or credit card information. These are all known sensitive entities that should be protected. We have ensured that these are identified, these are known entities that are identified and protected against being exposed to publicly available LLMs. We help you protect brand reputation by monitoring toxicity levels. It's very important to ensure that language and content used within the prompts or the model responses are always clean. This helps prevent a lot of the unintended outcomes that happens due to poor content. And finally, this specific implementation of safeguarding your automation, safeguarding your company data is to help you stay compliant and manage risks effectively. Let me talk a little bit about how the guardrail, an inline mechanism, really protects data from making its way into the LLMs. Think of the guardrail as a firewall between your automations and the large language models that are hosted in the public clouds. The guardrail essentially intercepts every prompt execution that takes place. It scans for content, looks for content that is inappropriate and toxic in nature. It looks for sensitive data that's embedded within those content and treats it before it is sent to the LLMs. The treatment it does here for sensitive data essentially is a smart tokenization. Once we have identified sensitive entities that could be PII, PHI, or PCI, we essentially replace them with tokenized values that obfuscate the original values, delinking it from a person or delinking it from somebody's sensitive information. These tokenized values are constructed within the prompts and are sent to the LLMs so that the LLMs don't ever get to see what those original values are. On the way back, when these LLMs response, we take that response, we intercept again to scan through the content and see if the content is safe, what are the toxicity levels, as well as reconstructing this model responses with the original values, replacing the tokenized values with the original values so that the end or consuming application makes sense of that response. So this is a very transparent process. There is no activity needed from an automation developer side. Once you execute this automation, this interception happens inline in a very transparent fashion and ensures that your data is protected and it never makes way into the LLMs. And finally, we have enhanced our audit capabilities where you can actually see what was replaced, what was the tokenization that took place, what are the toxicity levels. You can look at, you can review all of that data through our audit logs, which we have enhanced. Now, let me go ahead and demonstrate this capability to you within our product. Switching here, what you see is the control room, which you're familiar with. We have enhanced and, over the past few releases, we have provided a lot of the monitoring and deep insights through the automation command center. You'll see a lot of widgets for AI governance that includes, the top automations, most used models, which Gen AI model calls are being used the most. What's the model utilization looking like? What's the token consumption? Again, this is aggregated at the bot level. What is the total tokens consumed for that specific model that was used? And a lot of these are interactive. As you can see, you have all the drill downs available through these widgets. You're familiar with our AI governance audit capabilities, where you had the prompt logs that basically aggregated all of the interactions that took place within the automations. You'll see the model prompts, the responses, along with all the parameters that were saved, right? And this is how it typically looked. Now, with the guardrails introduced, you will now see the toxicity scores when guardrail intercepted that prompt execution. You will see that the original values, which included personally identifiable information, has now been replaced with tokenized values, obfuscating any sensitive information within the prompt. Model responses used those token values, and these token values will be reconstructed and they will be replaced by original values, so that when the user or downstream consuming application receives, it could make sense out of this a model response. Now, how do you do this? This is through the guardrail configuration that is available through the control room. Here you can set up a guardrail by creating a guardrail policy, right? Once you create a guardrail policy, you'll be able to define the data masking or data protection levels. By default, we have set up the mask all, which means by default, all data will be masked and replaced. All sensitive data identified will be replaced by tokenized values. Additionally, we have provided flexibility for you to have a separate treatment needed, if needed, for specific categories. And how you could do that is by selecting a specific category that you want a differential behavior. And say, for instance, here I pick PII and I select Social Security number. And here you have the three treatments: the mask, anonymize, and allow. Mask is the reversible process of replacing original or sensitive data with tokenized values. The reversible process is when the model responses are received, these values are replaced with the original values. Anonymize, on the other hand, is an irreversible process, which means once the values have been tokenized, you cannot reconstruct them back. So these tokenized values will be used throughout the model response. And this is by design to help you protect any sensitive data that shouldn't have been used or have been accidentally used, and you want to make sure they are always anonymized whenever they are identified within the prompts. And finally, allow is the mechanism that allows you to send certain entities in a clear text form so that you can use them within the response. This is, again, a flexibility that allows you to use the guardrail in scenarios where using some certain sensitive data is absolutely necessary for your automation purpose. Finally, once that's done, you can go ahead and assign this policy or rule to your folders. So automations stored within those folders will automatically be enforced by this rule when it's applied. So when they are executed at runtime, these guardrails will be intercepting those automations and will be doing the necessary treatment as designed by the policy. So this is a very, very critical enhancement we introduced. And as you can see, the key takeaway here is, with governance, essentially our goal is to help you navigate this shift with confidence and with responsibility. Ensuring that all your AI agents you develop, all the automations you develop with AI operate securely and ethically and in full compliance with your governance standards. The key takeaways here are ensuring a proactive approach. Governance needs to be end to end. It cannot be an afterthought. It cannot be after the fact. It has to be right from development to deployment and a continuous monitoring. Proactive approach helps to ensure that you have taken an ethical approach, you're ensuring compliance, and you are preventing any unintended or outcomes, or you're preventing security incidents ahead at the development time itself. Once you have deployed your automations, once they are running, it's also important to make sure they are protected by safety guardrails, protecting your sensitive data so that they never leak to publicly available LLMs. It is very important, again, to protect your brand reputation by constantly monitoring the toxicity levels and being able to take full control of managing content within the prompts and model responses. And finally, continuous monitoring. This is absolutely essential. Auditing and continuously monitoring your systems to make sure they're always performant and they're always complying with the company's security policies. This is very, very key to ensuring end-to-end governance as you build automations with AI. Now, with that, we will launch a poll question just to see where you are in your governance journey. What are the common applications of AI plus automation within your organization today? So are you using AI for customer experience and personalizations like recommendations, sentiment analysis? Are you using AI if you're in the healthcare for medical imaging, diagnostic, drug discovery? Are you using AI in business and decision intelligence for forecasting market trends, or predicting customer churn, or any business analytics that you're performing? AI within cloud or IT operations, automated IT support, threat detection, or if there are any other that you see areas that your company is using AI for, we'll be interested to know about that. All right, let's see, are the poll results coming in? All right, awesome. So looks like mostly for customer experience and operation automations. This is interesting, and I think business decisions. These are some of the very key areas, and good to know that this is a good validation point. So a lot of emerging new areas, but I think this is consistent with what we are hearing. Thank you for that. Our next poll question: how would you describe your organization's approach to AI governance and responsible AI? Love to hear if you have a structured AI governance framework centered on transparency, fairness, security, and compliance, or you don't have any, but maybe tomorrow something you're building, or we are in the process of building a framework for AI governance. All right, let's see. Let's take a look at those poll results. Awesome. All right. So looks like we have quite a few built in the process of building a framework for AI governance. That's interesting. And glad to see, companies and organizations are considering building. We have 27% responses already with structured AI governance framework. This is great to hear. So I'm pretty sure with the tools we are providing, the capabilities we have provided natively embedded in our platform, you can leverage all of these to help you in and stay compliant with your company's governance policies. So with that, thank you everybody for listening and tuning in today. I will open up the floor for questions.
Yeah, we had a few questions come in. First one by Divyendu. Can a user mark the PII data manually?
Not at this time. All the PII data, this is all out of the box. So there are no manual work needed at all. It's a very smart system that's able to identify all known PII, PHI, PCI data that's out there. So there is actually no manual work needed at all to configure what PII data needs to be. So it's all out of the box.
Right. And how is sensitivity label managed?
That's a great question. So essentially, the sensitivity level, in fact, here it's the top level of sensitivity that we apply, because these are all extremely sensitive and we treat them as customer data or extremely classified data. So for those cases, I mean, none of this data is accessible to any of our internal folks. It is not accessible to anybody through the systems. So the way it is, this sensitive data, once identified within the prompts, are tokenized and stored encrypted in a secure vault. So that ways we are ensuring that there is no access that is available to these secure vaults. It's only programmatically through the executions that you can make a call through the APIs to these systems to retrieve the data. So extreme sensitivity associated with the data for all PII, PHI, and PCI data that's been stored.
Right. And then Stephen asks, have any examples or thoughts of how much longer API calls can take when mask or anonymize is done? Maybe if like 5 to 10 PII entities.
Yeah, that's a great question, Stephen. So think about it like, there are 3 steps to a prompt execution. You have the prompt, right? The guardrail interception takes place. We reconstruct the prompt, model response to those prompts, and finally, we reconstruct those model responses. The overall time taken is around 1/10 of the total transaction for the masking and the unmasking of the entities within the prompts.
Right. And then there's a question by Celestine who says, how can we take this to a heavily regulated enterprise like life sciences? How do we answer to the question of the data being processed on cloud and ensuring the data cannot be breached?
Great question. Part of this, Celestine, I've tried to answer through the data handling and data classification. All of this data that is stored within our cloud is ensured we have applied industry grade AES level encryption to this data. They are protected within secure vaults with full authentication, authorization, and accountability deployed on them. They are constantly monitored and ensured that there is no unidentified or unauthorized access to those data. And at the same time, for heavily regulated enterprises like life sciences, we do understand, data is extremely sensitive. So in those cases where PII, PHI data, we are treating them as highly classified and secure entities. So our data, we do follow the data policies that we have aligned through our contracts. And additionally, for this specific features, we have made sure product has the built-in capabilities to ensure there is full control and there's full protection for all the data securely stored.
Right. Celestine has a follow-up question. Even in RAG, the documents are taken to the cloud systems for processing. How to handle a defensive question from a client?
Yeah, I think there's 2 options there. I mean, so one is our native RAG offering, Enterprise Knowledge, is available both as a cloud-based option, but also as an on-prem option as well. So if you have customers that are sensitive to where the documents are uploaded, or the data is uploaded and stored, then on-prem is a great offering for you. Also, pretty much all of the hyperscalers have private cloud deployment options as well. And private cloud is essentially a part of your extended internal network. So many CIOs and InfoSec teams look at it as essentially the same thing, even if it doesn't technically run on your bare metal. And so there's options for that as well.
All right. Hope that answers your question. Sumit has a question that I believe is been answered live, but I'll just say it anyway. How does the governance module ensure compliance and security in automation anywhere?
Awesome, great. And I'm happy to reiterate that. Governance is end-to-end, and we have introduced capabilities across embedded within our platform. As you saw in various features that we have introduced through the secure model connections, where you build and connect to only approved models. You have the AI skills where you're building skills, you're optimizing them and ensuring they are delivering or they are providing the appropriate responses. We have governance capability for auditing and monitoring. So the dashboards, the logs, the governance logs helps you audit and monitor every interaction that took place within the automation. And finally, you just saw the new guardrail feature, which will be rolled out in our next release, where we will be protecting sensitive data. So governance, think of it as the foundation block that extends end to end across the automation flow. It's just not a single module. There are lots of built-in capabilities that will help you govern building with AI, usage of AI, as well as ensuring you're monitoring and auditing all your AI activities.
All right, hope that answers your question. So, the next question is, how can we determine risk cat during process analysis? Are there established metrics and categories to assess them? Okay.
Let me try to, when you say risk categories during process analysis, and by that are you looking at, seems like you're thinking about identifying risky applications. Well, that's again, through your monitoring, auditing tools, through the data we surface, all the insights that we provide, you'll be able to identify if there are models that are being used and that are being known to be vulnerable. So the tools we have provided here will help you identify those risks and then take the necessary actions.
Great. I think that's answered since that. We had a question in the chat about that I believe has been answered. Is it possible to deploy the guardrails on-prem? If not now, is there a roadmap?
There is a roadmap. Our first launch will be within the cloud for guardrails. There is a roadmap for you to use guardrails on premise. We are working towards it. We will be announcing when we are ready with the on-prem availability of the guardrail service as well.
Okay. So there's another question by Daniel that I believe Jason has marked as.
Yeah, so Daniel basically asked, how big of a lift is it to move from sort of what we consider generation 1 traditional RPA task automation to something like generation 3 APA? And then do we have recommendations or resources for migrating current processes to an APA process? Or does the value come from using APA on new processes? So I'll actually answer the second part first. So we just kicked off the call talking about some of these new great training capabilities that are coming out in our APA training week, or training month, I should say, that's coming up here. So Daniel, I would definitely encourage you to register for that. That's going to give you all the great details and insights on how to start building in APA patterns and which tools that we make available to take advantage of. Secondly, we definitely see most customers doing a gradual migration, not migration in the typical sense, gradual evolution into building in APA approaches or patterns. I would say there's typically different phases of that. The easiest one is to start utilizing generative AI within your automations that you already have today. There could be great opportunities across all the different automations to inject, LLM capabilities to do things like data analysis, content generation. I mean, there's a ton of really low-hanging fruit there. And then over time, as the engineering team or the development team, as the business, as the overall organization gets more and more comfortable with utilizing generative AI in their solutions, I think what you'll find is new opportunities will unpack. That might be a reimagining of some of the current processes you have. A lot of our great customer examples for customers that started with us early on took a process that was already there. As example, like the order fulfillment process I had a slide on, or the auto loan demo process that I demoed, both were current example processes where they needed to find additional gains and efficiencies, and agents were able to help do that. In some cases, it also may be net new development, but at the end of the day, I think what you're looking for is how can you go and weave generative AI and these agentic process capabilities into the business processes that you have today. Hopefully that helps.
All right. Okay. There's a lot of questions coming in. I'll just have to. There were a few questions that were asked earlier in the chat, where I believe they are related to AI Agent Studio, but I'll just put them here. So Jeffin asked, how have you interfaced the chat into the automation copilot? Can you share any documentation of this? And
I was looking for that in our docs. I don't have it handy right now. It's something we can probably follow up with you afterwards on. I would encourage you to, though, go to our automation copilot for business users docs section and see if there's something that's available there to start, but we'll see if we can follow up with a specific link.
And Tejavardhan asked, can you touch base on infrastructure requirements of supporting the processing and analysis of large volumes of data?
I think that I'll take that from a tooling perspective. Enrico, you may have a different perspective just on the governance side because there's a large amount of data that we generate. For by and large, I think on the tool side, so what we mean when I say the tool side is building of agents and utilizing LLMs to go and analyze data. We actually don't see a ton of additional infrastructure lift because typically these models run outside of your automation anywhere infrastructure. Either they're models that are managed and hosted on-prem or they're in a cloud provider. And there's various different types of sizing depending on the model that you go with. And also, the speed and the performance that you're looking for there. The one piece of guidance that I can provide is specifically on the enterprise knowledge capability, because as I mentioned earlier, that is deployed either as a cloud service that we offer or something as an on-prem offering. We do have guidance in our documentation around that, if that's more helpful for on-prem deployments there.
Yeah, and maybe I could add, since this is the question about data, and if you're looking about all the automation data and all the logs, so do know that we have the ability to store logs for you to provide those deep analytics. The widgets are surfacing some of the aggregated data for a clear visual around the data. And this is all about the executions of the automations, the audit logs. So we do have built-in capabilities to forward these logs to a system event management system like a Splunk or a QRadar if you have in-house. You can forward these logs into those platforms to retain them longer than our default retention period for this data. And you can do your own analysis. You can go build some visuals. You can build your own analytics using external third-party analytics platform as well. Hope that helps.
I hope that also answers Sumit's question, which is, can the governance module be customized to fit specific organizational policies?
You can leverage a lot of these tools. The platform governance capabilities that we have provide is consistent with some of the frameworks that are out there. Essentially, if you look at NIST's AI framework, you will see there is consistent approaches wherein we touched upon the three pillars of ensuring governance. You have the monitoring and audit capabilities, you have the guardrails, and then we have tools that will help you develop and build with AI safely. So you can leverage a lot of these tools to align with your company policies. We have tried as much as possible to keep up with the regulatory frameworks out there by giving you all of these tools that are built in and natively provided through our platform.
And on that note, Ashish asks, what if the PII is not present in the predefined list? Is there an option to create a new option?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We are continuing to monitor for any new additions to the default list or the predefined list. In addition, in the roadmap in future, we will be able to provide an ability to add custom data. So this is not in there today with the built-in defined list. Where we will be continuously enhancing this list to keep on adding newer entities to have a coverage for global regions as well. But in future, if there are other entities outside of this predefined, you would be able to add them. That's on the roadmap for the future.
All right. And Celestine asks, how do we get access to any trial version of the complete package? Sign up for the APA training camp.
Yeah, APA training camp is definitely what I would recommend there. And then work with your local account team on individual trial options.
All right, I think that brings us to the end of all the questions. Okay, I'm just gonna announce the events now. And unless anyone else has any questions, I'm gonna wait for exactly 3 more seconds. Okay, so no one has any further questions. That means that the Q&A section is done. Thank you, Jason and Rinku. I'm gonna move on to the final announcements about the upcoming events. And for this, I'm gonna share my screen. Hopefully this time it works. Yep, I feel so vindicated right now. Does it work? I think it works. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
We
Okay.
can.
yes.
Yeah, we can.
Vindication, yay. All right, so in April, we have a few more events coming up for you. Unfortunately, we'll not be having a dev meetup in April, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to attend any events. Like there's a product club and there is a networking session, a user group, and you can find more about this on our events page. And also, we might have another event coming up in May, a special kind of dev meetup. So just stay tuned for that on our events page. And you can do so by going to this URL by scanning this QR code. And if you're on mobile, then you can just take a screenshot and then scan it using that, I think. So make sure to check out our community events page for upcoming events. In April, we'll have, I'm going to reiterate, product club and networking session, but there's going to be no dev meetup in April. But stay tuned in May. If you want to also be very, very sure that you're tuned into all of the dev meetups announcements, make sure to add the dev meetups option in your profile. You can do this by clicking your community profile, just going to the last option, which of the community programs interest you. Click on dev meetups. That way you'll stay tuned with like all of the announcements and all of the emails that we post for people to know about more dev meetups. And that's all the announcements I have for you today. Thank you all for joining us and hope you have a good rest of your day. Hope you have a good evening if you're tuning in from India. And a recording of this dev meetup is going to be emailed to your inbox. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. And bye-bye.
Thank you all.